have a card that is flexible, that have a little bit the same theme, I'm able to play all 3 games as long as I adapt to all different principles. So here's what I'm gonna start using. So first of all, my prep will use the color, and this is where the Urban Prepper a big influence on me is color of prepping. And so he had 10 or 11 colors, and so everything will be put in. So water will be blue, food will be green, but add to this, what I'm going to be doing is out of this, to keep in mind the rule of 3 that everybody use, my bags will be a 3-day, 3-day plus, and 3 months. So 3, 3, 3. So the 3-day, that means that in that bag I'll have all the supplies for those to keep up for 3 days. And the 3-day plus, again, same thing, and the 3 months. Just thinking this way as well. So if I talk about first aid, the first aid will have a different approach. So for example, if I'm just 3 days, all I want to do is really stop bleeding, take care of little boo-boos, and that's it. In the 3-day plus, I'm starting to think about more long-term. I may need to rehydrate peoples and things like that. And in 3 months, now we're talking almost opening a small hospital. Wound care is way more advanced, and so it's not just about patching, it's about keeping up. So that way you see your gear as well, depending of which kit it is, depends on the other one. But again, taking for example the first aid kit here, is that the advantage of this is that now, let's say I go back to my example of the war one, where I need to take a lot of food. So so it's my 3-day plus kit. But because I went higher on food, I need to cut on something else, because weight wise, that's all you can carry. So what I can do is, instead of taking my 3-day plus first aid kit, I can take my 3-day plus kit. The other advantage of having this as well is for mathematics. What I mean by that is that if I know that my kit has enough food for 2 person for 3 days plus, that means it can be good for 4 people, because you divide by 2 for 3 days. So it makes also, or if I want to extend it, that means for 1 person, then I'm good for so 3-day plus means 7 days, and so basically I'm good now for 14 days for 1 person on the food. So you see, mathematic wise as well, it helps. And so if I'm lucky and I'm able to keep all my 3 kits because I didn't lose them or nothing happened to them, I can add it up as well. So that means if there's someone with me and my kits have like for 2 people or 4 people or whatever size you want to do, and there's, for whatever reason, there's 2 people that adds it up, now I can give them the other kits. So that way I can give my different module or trade my different module too. Like for example, my food module of my 3 days could be a barter items that I need to exchange, because I already have my 3 months. I need for whatever reason I lost my flashlight, or my flashlight went down, or there's an antibiotics that I need or something like that. Well, now I can barter my 3-day food supply of my 3-day kit because I got already my 3 months stuff. So for mathematics too, it makes it a little bit easier. So to be even more TUPinitis, basically in my tools there'll be different category. In my first aid kit I'll be using 10 colors, and I did a video on that. And in my I'm gonna do another video on this as well, but basically they'll be separated in VHF, UHF, HF, and digital as well. And I already started to separate those kits. So how is basically just a kit that looks like this. So you see by different colors. So for example, if I open my bag, my first aid kit would be red, but I know that once I open my first aid kit, in the red it'll be trauma, the yellow will be decon, and so on. And so all the colors that I have in there, I know what they are for. So the Lego bug out, that's how I call it. Basically, the pro is you're able to integrate all your gear as well. So the problem that I had in the last few years is that as I build a bug out bag, you're trying to just keep a bug out bag. But I have a lot of outdoor gear that basically is outside this, because I always tried to have a bug out bag. But now what I can do is include my outdoor gear, because I have them in bags and separate. And so now when for example, when I go hiking, I take my kit and I put my separated kits. So for example, my module on for sleeping in, I can put that in my hiking backpack and go for a day out, so that way if something happens, then I have a little module to sleep out, and vice versa. And so for again, if I need to bug out and be like, for example, the war scenario, I can use my 60 liters, put full of food in that, or as much as I can, and then go out, versus using my just little bug out bag that I had previously intended for. It's flexible, facing the unknown. We'll talk a little bit about that, and easier to review kits as well, because now, for example, you say every month I'm going to review my kits, or for the people that are subscribed for a monthly subscription as well, so the AppleCat box or something like this, and you get a module for fire, well then all you can do is add it up, and depending on which kit you want your stuff, so you can also add, and so you don't need to undo all your bags, because everything is set up. It's easier to practice different kits as well. So you say, okay, this month I'm going to practice my blackout protocols. Then you get your kit out and you take. It takes longer to get together. Again, it's to sit down and have everything. But once I think you establish the first thing, it'll be easier to change after that. Require more logistic, because like I said, you need to think it differently and stuff, and the initial higher cost, because you have to buy all the separate bags with different colors and things like that. Attached to this concept is also another video from the Urban Prepper called the Prepping Matrix. And one issue that I had with this, and it was a great thing, like again, he was talking about this, everything was in there and stuff, is that a lot of the kits that we do is to prepare for an earthquake, for this, for that. But the problem with this is that, what about the black swan? So for example, September 11 was a big black swan. Nobody really knew that airplanes could be used as weapons. Well, now when it happens, because nobody really prepared for it, you had to adjust. And a lot of the disaster that we're going to be facing could be just something that we never thought of. But I think you can go down. So to go from a something very complex like this, about thinking about everything and all that stuff, to so this is a great book called The Black Swan, The Impact of the Highly Improbable. And basically what they call a black swan is something that we never expected. So the depression of the 1930s was a big was a black swan. September 11 was another black swan. So things that we never really expected, but they're highly probable, is that they will happen. So instead of having that big, very complex matrix, here you go, survival protocols. And so, for example, structural building damage. If I put this more in a category that it is a bomb, an earthquake, or a whatever, like a fire that damaged the structure of my building, I know what to do. And we talk in people in disasters and situations of stress, their thinking will be back to how they train. Was if you train differently, so I train for an earthquake, I train for that, some people may have trouble kind of adjusting to all this. But if you have prepared and thought of the structural building damage protocol, boom, okay, it's structural building damage, you go on that one. Civil unrest, you can have different levels, like again, that riot that was very central here versus civil unrest because there's a war going on, quite different civil unrest, but yet about the same thing. The people will react a little bit the same way, and the way to react to it is the same thing. So instead of focusing on the cause of what happens, it's a little bit better to how can I prevent it? Like, for example, blackout, that because the grid is down, because there's a power storm, so a storm that came and knocked the powers out, or that you actually have no money because you lost your job and you're not able to pay your bills, so they cut you electricity. Same thing, you're in the blackout. So the cause are not so much important as the result, and so now you focus on the result, not so much on the cause. Versus the Matrix, that's what I found, it was focusing a lot on the cause. But the problem is there's be tons of cause. Well, and I don't know, let's say that meteor that hits the earth, that said everybody always say that would never happen, but let's say it does happen, and now you have a black swan. Well, if you didn't prepare for it, how are you going to react to it? But if you have prepared that, this big meteor hits, it's damaged the building you live in, it release toxic stuff, and it's contact versus airborne. So if you get in contact with it, and because of what it hit, it did a EMP, and so all the communication will break down. Do you see what I meant by that? Is that something that I never expected, a meteor hitting the earth and create an impact. Now I can put in place protocols that I already practiced, that I thought of, that I know what kind of kit should be and stuff and everything. So now I know that I need to react to those things. So now if I know I have no more communication, I need to do communication, I don't really care what's the cause. And by the focusing on the why, sometimes a lot of people's gets frozen and don't know what to do for the how can I fix that. So anyway, that was my little video concept. Leave your comments and stuff, and again, it's kind of still in its infancy, so it's still a concept I'm trying with, but it seems like it has some merit. So we'll talk to you soon.